Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Kelly Week 4. I'm excited that you're here with me, and I hope you grabbed your cup of coffee and grabbed your Bible and you're sitting in your favorite comfy chair. My cup today, I want to show you. Brian bought me this in Thailand. It's kind of an awkward cup to use, actually. Obviously, you can tell why. But when we have our grandsons over and when they spend the night, we always tell stories before they go to bed. And the littlest one always tells his stories always about a mouse. A mouse on a motorcycle. It must be from a book he read, but it's always about a mouse. So when Brian saw this, he thought of him, so he bought me this little cup. So I'd love to hear the history of what cup you're using today. So first of all, I wanted to thank you guys for whoever of you helped by donating or baking or whatever for the Murrieta PD outreach. It was such a blessing. They were so blessed. And for the food bank yesterday, so many of you guys donated, whether it was finances or food or help. And we brought 5,400 pounds of food in. They have to weigh everything and sign it in and go in. So I guess that's just under 3 tons of love. So that was just an amazing thing, and so it was exciting to be part of. And so I know there's many ways that you guys are all ministering to your family and your friends and your neighbors, and I hope your community as well. So that was a blast, and I wanted to thank you for that. And this is supposed to be the last of my series. We did a 4-week Coffee with Kelly series because we were hoping we would be done by quarantine by then. So it looks like we must have a few more weeks or so, but so I'm praying about extending it, and I thought, they probably don't want to listen. They probably don't want to hear anymore. But honestly, I figured, hey, you don't have to turn it on if you don't want to hear it. So I probably will extend it 2 more weeks, and you just don't have to turn it on if you don't want to come. But I hope you do. So I have 2 thoughts today regarding this quarantine time and shelter in place, and I've been trying to figure out how to tie them together. One is what it means to be infectious. And the other is waiting, and how that's an action word. And so I decided to call it Be Infectious While You Wait. So let's pray. Father God, we come before you right now, and we thank you for this time that we can share together and have coffee together and be somewhat connected. And so I pray, God, that your spirit would speak to my heart, would speak to these women's heart, Lord, and that you would not unite us again in spirit. And I thank you for the internet. I thank you for techie people who make this happen. It's just an amazing thing. So I thank you for it. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, I hope this week that you were able to find joy, which was my topic last week. And I did, I think most days. I had one really bad day. It seems like that's kind of my deal. But on that day, I was reading a newsletter it was a leadership women's thing that I follow. And it was called Let's Not Pretend Things Are the Same. And in one part of it, the author was admitting that although everything is online and everybody's Zooming and we have these videos and churches online, and although it's a good alternative, let's just admit it, it's not the same. Although we can have joy, we all have, I think, this deep longing to be back with our church family, in our church building, on our church pew, our church area where we sit. And sometimes we try to recreate an online version of what it was before, but it's not the same. And the author was saying that it's okay to acknowledge this loss, and it's okay to validate the feelings of mourning and almost grief at times and loss. Even in Psalm 137, the Jews were mourning. They were in exile, and they were mourning and longing for Jerusalem as it used to be and the way it used to be, and the celebrations they used to have, and they were grieving and longing for it to be like it was. And I found that very interesting. And the author goes on to say, I found it helpful to name the griefs I felt. Sometimes it means me and my husband taking turns saying things. We miss this from before quarantine. We miss going to do this. We miss seeing that. We miss our time of this. Even weird stuff. Obviously, then we turn to pray for those who are experiencing much more loss than we are. But it's easy to want to shut out the grief and kind of like just everybody, we're focusing on the joy and being thankful. And I know that's right and true. We talked about it last week. But sometimes, and this author was saying, as leaders, we play an important role in validating grief's existence and helping those in our communities to lament it well. Renee James wrote, Jesus' death and resurrection invites us to face the world's pain and ours and move forward toward that pain, knowing that we will never be overcome by it. On the cross, Jesus' lament cry became ours, both its griefs and its joy. It is finished. So ladies, you can name your grief, you can lament it, you can mourn it. It's okay. And I read another article from a pastor that was saying, although it's right to obey the order, the shelter-in-place order, we're doing our part and we're doing as we've been asked to, there's a reason that staying home on Sundays and socially distant prayer nights and Zoom Bible studies don't feel quite right. This is not the way we were meant to be. The body of Christ, designed to reflect and serve God in community, belongs together in person. One of the most profound truths of the Christian theological tradition is that community is intrinsic to the God in whose image we are created. It's right for us to ache to be together. And I guess I wanted to remind you of that. We need to find joy in this and be grateful and look for the silver linings and God's blessings. But it's okay to mourn, and it's right to ache from being apart. I love when a friend will text me, I just love seeing your face. And you're just like, oh, we ache for that connection. But now, while we are in quarantine, we wait. We wait to see how long the shelter in place or quarantine will be. We wait until our government decides our fate. And we know that's not really true. God does, but you know what I mean. It's our mayors and our governors and our president who are all going to tell us when we come out of quarantine. And so we wait to see which state gets to come first and what it's going to look like. 10 in a gathering and then 50 and then 250. I don't know how they're going to do it. Maybe we can, auction off seats at church to see who gets to be the 10. We've made all kinds of jokes about this, but we wait. We wait. We watch the news every day and read the paper and we wait. But what do we do while we wait? Waiting is an action. Waiting is a word. Waiting is a thing. And when you define the word action, it means simply expressed in action. Sleeping, sitting, napping. Although there is no movement, there is still action. And so often we think waiting is passive, like we're just kind of twiddling our thumbs. But it doesn't have to be passive. It can be active waiting. And I'm thinking of what it means to wait on the Lord. But for a minute, think how you are waiting for this shelter to be done. Again, we watch the news to see which state goes first. Sometimes we get fidgety or fearful or frustrated or angry or even anxious. And, people are now starting to protest and become very angry. People's emotions are like this. And one day we feel okay with the wait, and the next day we're at our wits' end. And maybe we lay down the couch all that day. Or in other days we make great use of our time. It's difficult. And each day we have a choice on how we wait, on how we spend our time, use our time, or waste our time. And that's our choice. But how are we waiting? And so obviously waiting and how we use that time has to do with our thoughts and our attitudes and our perspective. I personally find that how I wait is often attached to my feelings of purpose. And when I feel purposeless, I don't do well. And I don't think that's right, but oftentimes I think there's purpose and passion that we all feel. And if we lose our passion and we can't find our purpose, we do just kind of wander aimlessly. And waiting is hard. We've all heard Bible studies and people talk about how we don't like to wait. I don't have to prove that to you. And our society isn't good at waiting. They say when you're waiting for the microwave, when you type in just the minute for whatever it is to warm it up, that minute is the longest minute ever. It's like we don't like to wait. But in the biblical sense, the word waiting carries the idea of confident expectation and hope. It means trusting in God's goodness and trusting in his character. It means trusting in his purposes and his plans. It means trusting in his word, in his timing, and believing that he's not just there sitting on his hands while this coronavirus is going on, and he's just sitting on his hands waiting to see how it's going to unfold. Our waiting, again, is trusting in who God is, and he's not sitting on his hands. In fact, I love what Psalm 89:13 says. It says, "Powerful is your arm, strong is your hand. Your right hand is lifted high in glorious strength." He is definitely not sitting on his hand. And waiting means resting in his grace, being still in your spirit, being still and knowing that he is God, and all that that means. Now, there's some similarities and differences I see in waiting for the shelter to be over and waiting for the Lord. The unknown is the same, I guess, sometimes the anxiousness. But although we are trusting in man's plan for the shelter to be done and man's best guess and their scientific guess, waiting on the Lord means that we're trusting in God Almighty. And we're waiting for a sure thing, a better thing, confident in God's promises to us and everything like that. And there's a lot of things that we have to wait on the Lord for. We wait for decisions, we wait for God's timing, we pray about things and we wait. And so, but honestly, lately I've been struck with how we are called to wait for the Lord to return. Waiting for the Lord's return and to be ready for that. 3 times in the last chapter of Revelation, Jesus says, "Behold, I come quickly. Surely I am coming quickly." He says it 3 times in that one chapter. And how we wait for his return matters. Because although we are called to trust and rest in everything, there are things that we are called to do as we wait. Waiting, again, is an action word. It's a thing. I love in Psalm 123, verse 2, where it says, "Behold, as the eyes of the servant look to the hands of their masters, as the eyes of a maid to the hand of her mistress, so our eyes look to the Lord our God until he has mercy on us." I love that picture. We are called to watch him. Just as we watch, if you are a servant and your master, you're watching his hand, do this, do that, do this, and you're always waiting and attentive and in tune with what they want you to do. That's the kind of waiting and watching we're supposed to be doing for the Lord's return. And in order to watch him, we have to be near to him. We have to watch intently, which means we have to be attentive to him. We have to be near him, we have to be watching him, and we have to be listening to him in order to be able to obey him. He has a job for you and I, and we are told to be obedient and respond to what he's called us to do while we wait and prepare ourselves to be ready again and to be obedient. And I love the story in Luke chapter 12, and I'm going to read verses 35 to 43, but at home you can read it all and especially go down to 48. But Jesus here is telling a parable of an expectant servant. And he says, "Be dressed for service and keep your lamps burning as though you were waiting for your master to return from the wedding feast. Then you will be ready to open the door and let him in the moment he arrives and knocks. The servants who are ready and waiting for his return will be rewarded. I tell you the truth, he himself will seat them, put on an apron, and serve them as they sit and enjoy. He may come in the middle of the night or just before dawn, but whenever he comes, he will reward the servants who are ready. Understand this, if a homeowner knew exactly when a burglar was coming, he would not permit his house to be broken into. You also must be ready all the time, for the Son of Man will come when least expected." And Peter said, "Lord, is that an illustration just for us or for everyone?" And the Lord replied, "A faithful, sensible servant is one to whom the master can give the responsibility of managing his other household servants and feeding them. If the master returns and finds that the servant has done a good job, there will be a reward. I tell you the truth, the master will put that servant in charge of all he owns. But what if the servant thinks my master won't be back for a while, and he begins beating the other servants, partying and getting drunk? The master will return unannounced and unexpected, and he will cut the servant in pieces and banish him with the unfaithful. And I love the picture that he says about that they're ready. And again, if a homeowner knew a burglar was coming, and he knew he would be ready all the time. Our house has been broken into before, quite unexpectedly, and scares the heck out of you. But if I knew he was coming, you knew you'd be ready there with the bat. But we know for sure Christ is coming back for us. We don't know when. But he tells us in that parable to be ready with our lamps burning and our oils ready. Blessed is the servant in 43 whom his master will find so doing when he comes. Are you doing when he comes? We are called to live ready. And, picture this. Imagine if, and many of you do have family that lives out of town or maybe out of the country, and maybe they only come one time a year or once every couple years or something. And you are really excited that they're coming. You have the date and you are anxiously anticipating them to come. And while you wait, you don't just sit around. You're preparing for them. You're preparing their room. Maybe you're cleaning it out, cleaning drawers for them to use. Maybe you're planning the menu for when they're going to be there. Maybe you're planning things and activities to do and places to go. You're preparing because you're so excited you're going to see them. Or maybe you're going on a vacation. You and your family, you have a favorite spot that you go, and you're getting ready for that. Maybe you're preparing for months for that. You are eagerly awaiting that trip. You're planning excursions. I know Brian and I did that. We went on an Alaskan cruise last year, and so at night we would look and read all about the excursions and try to figure out which one would be the funnest, and plan maybe what you're going to pack to eat while you're there if you're bringing food with you, or you're saving money, or you're buying supplies or certain clothes that you're going to need on that vacation. But whatever it is, you're excited and planning and preparing. And waiting for the Lord's return is like that, but it's also like waiting for the sun to rise. It's coming up. The sun always comes up. It always does. And he is coming back. Ladies, it's a promise, and we live waiting for his return, waiting to live and dwell with him forever. It's going to be glorious. So the question again is, how do we wait? How do we wait? Besides expectantly and eagerly, and especially maybe now during this quarantine time, how do we wait? And I thought, thinking about the coronavirus, I think we should wait infectiously, if you will, because you and I are called to be part of the gathering more souls to come with us, to be in heaven and to live with him forever. We are God's representatives here on earth. You know that. We are part of we are called to help kingdom build while we're here, and to share the gospel, to share the good news. We know what's coming, and hopefully we have this desire to bring everyone we love, everyone we know, everyone with us, to invite all that we can to the banquet. So we are called to do that. And this coronavirus, I think what they're saying that makes it so unique is how contagious it is. Cover your face, wash your hands. Infectious means that something is likely to be transmitted to someone else, likely to spread. It's transferable, it's spreadable. This virus is very contagious. I know it's not true, but people sometimes are acting like you can get it by looking at them cross-eyed. They look at you. You're like, I can't give it to you like that. But everyone's afraid because of how contagious it is. It's catchy. But ladies, while we wait on the Lord right now, and while we wait in the big sense for the Lord to come back, let's be contagious with the love of Jesus. 2 Corinthians 5:14 talks about that the love of Christ compels us. Let's live compelled. Once we taste and see that the Lord is good, how can we not want to share it? How can we not want to invite others to this banqueting table? You know, the gospel is contagious because lives are changed, people are changed, old is made new. Those who feel or are seen as worthless find purpose and value. People find meaning, direction, and purpose when there was once emptiness. You know, the gospel is contagious, and the gospel is communicable. It's easy to spread the good news, and it's good news. And like when when you catch a cold from somebody, it's probably not the virus, but just a cold that's probably from being too close to them while they were infectious, right? Them sneezing on you, wiping on you, whatever, but you were too close to them when they were infectious. And you know, for us to be able to spread the gospel and to spread the love of Christ, we first, number one, need to spend time with God to catch his heart, if you will, and catch his love and his passion for people. And then we have to spend time with people to pass that on to them as well. So it's catchy. And again, first we spend time with him to catch it from him, and then we spend time with others to spread it and transfer it to them. We can't wear our masks, if you will, when we're outside living in this world, keeping the gospel to ourselves. We got to rip them masks off and spread it to everyone that we know. You know, I read yesterday that the early Methodist movement, they were called Methodists because that word actually means the enthusiasts. And it wasn't a compliment at the time. It was because they were enthusiastic about living their faith in a certain method is why they called them that. But I love that they were called enthusiasts. And, you know, we can search our own heart. Are we enthusiastic for the gospel? Ladies, is my faith contagious? Is it contagious? You know, Paul tells us in Romans 12:11 to be fervent in spirit. And some translate that word fervent as a boiling heart. Have a boiling heart for Jesus. He says to be zealous for good works in Titus 2. It says in John 2:17 that Jesus was eaten up with passion. Apollos was fervent in spirit. You know, so we see these words, and it's about passion. A passion for Jesus keeps us infectious, keeps us contagious. You all know somebody who you would say that like their laugh is contagious. When they start laughing, it just makes you laugh. Or someone who has a contagious smile or just this joy that bubbles over, and when you're around them, it's contagious. Or their passion and excitement for whether it's cooking or running or whatever their hobby is, that passion is contagious. You know, I watch people who love cooking, and that passion is contagious. It hasn't yet got me to actually want to cook, but close when they're so excited and passionate. And I really believe that that's how we're called to wait, passionately, enthusiastically, contagiously. It's doing like Psalm 89:1 says, when the psalmist said, I will sing of the Lord's unfailing love forever. And verse 8 in that same psalm tells us that God is entirely faithful. And he goes on to say he's completely mighty. He created everything. He's the owner of everything. And those are reasons to sing passionately forever, like the psalmist says. And we can't let our passion cool off. I know sometimes when you serve certain food, you have to let it cool before you serve it. Bread, or maybe when you break brownies, when you make brownies, you have to let it cool a little bit before you cut it or it sticks. Well, our passion for Christ should never cool off. Do what you can to keep it burning, to have a boiling heart for Jesus, to keep your candles lit and your oil in your lamps. Do what it takes. And what does it take? Stay in the Word. Learn about Him. Stay close to Him. Appreciate Him. Have grateful hearts. Remind yourself of who God is. And again, remind yourself daily that God is coming, that Jesus is coming back soon. And then live ready. Figure out what He's calling you to do every day. Be busy about your Father's business till He comes. Live with passion. Remember your purpose. And be infectious for Jesus while you wait. You know, C.S. Lewis wrote, Christianity, if false, is of no importance, and if true, of infinite importance. The only thing Christianity cannot be is moderately important. I love that. So let's be passionate about serious things. If you've lost your passion, go back and stand by the cross. Stand under the cross. It was at the cross that we fell in love with the one who loved us enough to die for us so that we might live. It's also at the cross that we can regain that passion by reliving the scenes of Jesus' death and resurrection and remembering the significance of it. Go back to the cross. Get to the cross. You know, I read a quote that said, "Fire on the inside affects everything on the outside." And it's true. Even Albert Einstein wrote, "I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious." I thought that was funny. And also, a Christian without passion is like a river without water. You guys, fire on the inside affects everything on the outside. Keep your fire alive in Jesus Christ. And again, if you've lost your passion, revisit the cross daily. Get to know your God on a deeper level. And ladies, so while we wait, let's wait, even in quarantine, let's wait passionately, seeking God, seeking Him. And as we wait for the Lord's return, let's do it infectiously, contagiously. Let's spread the love of Jesus everywhere we go. Shall we do that? Let's do that together. And let's pray. Father God, we come before you right now, Lord, and we thank you that you are coming back for your bride. Lord, I thank you that you are coming back for us, and I pray that you would help us to wait just in a godly manner, that we would wait with this infectious love for you, that we pass on to everyone that we're around. Lord, that we would be contagious, that we would be just desired to transfer the gospel message to everyone we know. Help us to love you in a deeper sense, at a deeper level, and help us to love others the same. And Lord, as we get nearer to you and hear your heart and understand you better, and God, that your Spirit would give us this passion, Father, to and desire to be in your word and to get to know you, Lord, and that love would compel us to love others and to want to share your good news with them. So I thank you, Lord, for this time, and just encourage us, Lord, on how we're waiting. Lord, I pray that we would self-reflect and look at our waiting patterns and to actually see, have we lost our passion for you? And God, how can we get that back? And how can we stay passionate for you? We love you. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you, ladies, and I will see you next week.